You clicked on this video likely because you know you're not who you portray yourself to be. You're not living the life you say you're living, and you're not living the life you want to be living. Or maybe you just clicked on this video because you wanted to see what I had to say, but either way, I'm glad to have you here. In this video, I'm going to tackle this topic from two different aspects: self-improvement and then relationship with God. So from a self-improvement point of view, right, I've spoken countless times about how there's just different levels to self-improvement. If you've been doing self-improvement for a long enough period of time, it could be 2 years or whatever it is. If you started self-improvement 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, through watching videos from guys who are inspiring you online, because there's been a surge of young male influencers who are just influencing men to just step up, right, and become better. You probably did start doing self-improvement, you got into a certain point, right, but now you've hit a plateau, because now you actually want to get to that point where it's not just a little bit of improvement, so you're the same person but you look better, right? You want to completely transform yourself. I've spoken about how to get to that level you need to completely change, you need to drastically change, right? And I've spoken about self-image and why that's important. Now the reason I always speak about self-image and how that ties in with this video topic is that the real results you actually make are the ones that come from what you do when nobody else is watching, right? I've spoken countless times about how, if you're gymming, right, and you may be consistent enough over a long period of time to have a decent physique, but now you want to jump to that next level, right? Again, it's not enough for you to be to plan to eat clean, you meal prep and everything. Maybe you go to school, you go to work, and you have clean eating habits or whatever. But then at night, the rails just fall off. You order McDonald's, you raid the kitchen cabinet or whatever it is, right? That's what's happening when no one's watching, right? And just other aspects in your life, honestly, again, similar with, I can use school as an example for people that might still be studying, right? Again, you can go to school, you be like me. I always used to show up to lectures and stuff, and I'd always try to keep up to date with everything. But then when I was at home, it was difficult to study, right? When you had that long 2-week break to study for the exams that were coming up or the tests that were coming up, it would be difficult for me to make myself accountable, right? And again, that's where the real results come, right? That's where they really come, and that consistency over a long period of time. And that's why self-image is very important. I don't say briefly. I meant to mention it briefly in the last video, but it ended up being a long 10-minute thing. But I mentioned it in the last video, and I always talk about it. I speak about how self-image is necessary to hit that next level. Not only because obviously now you embody that and you're able to do it over a long period of time, but it's also just the fact that your brain power, right? You can't be using your brain power. Again, we can go back to the example of the guy in the gym, right? You can't be using your brain power to get yourself out of bed and motivate yourself to go to the gym. Because when you're trying to get to that next level, you need to be consistently showing up to the gym, consistently eating clean, right? And then you also need to make sure that when you're in the gym, you're working really every set you're doing, right? You're really working your muscles. You want to make sure that by the end of the gym session, your muscles have worked harder than they did last time, right? So that they can build, because you're at that point now where you're looking for marginal gains, bro, right? So it's all your brain power needs to be put in to being to working on the all that brain power needs to be put sorry, I just went blank. All that brain power needs to be put into actually working hard, in the gym, right? Actually doing that. The hard part is going there, making sure your muscles are dead every single gym session, right? That's where the difficulty is. Now you have no chance in hell of doing that if you're using all your brain power to get yourself to go to the gym, right? So that's just again what I mean when I say self-image is very important. In fact, it's necessary if you want to hit that next level, right? And I also want to speak about accountability buddies, right? This is why people that sort of look for accountability buddies, who have accountability buddies, or who rely on accountability buddies to sort of get themselves through. Those people and I don't want to say never because there'll probably be someone who has, but they rarely ever make serious strides in their lives, right? They rarely ever become that successful, because you've got an accountability buddy and everything, and it's cool, right? First of all, with an accountability buddy nowadays, you probably only be able to find one that you can keep accountable online. Maybe it's your personal trainer, and you show up to the gym, they might be able to keep you accountable there, right? But in reality, you spend most of your time alone, right? The person you spend the most time with is yourself, right? And they're not going to be there for you every single second, right? Like that's what I'm saying about like accountability buddies, is that like it's cool, right? Like it can help you, but you can't rely on it because you spend most of your time alone. And again, most of your results come from what you do when nobody's watching. It doesn't matter that you were with your, again, I'm a big proponent of like, I'm trying to find my boys, like my group of like-minded guys that we go through life together. It doesn't matter that you're with them the whole day, and maybe you guys gym together every morning, and you guys have like you have breakfast, lunch, and supper together, or whatever it is, right? That doesn't matter if when you go back home at like 9 p.m. again, you raid the kitchen cabinet, or you have like McDonald's or whatever it is. That doesn't matter, because you've just undone all that hard work for the day that you did, and like eating clean, right? So that's why I believe accountability buddies don't work very well, and you need to have self-image. You need to have a good self-image, right? Because your results come from self-accountability through identity, not external motivation, not other people, not accountability partners, not watching motivational videos on YouTube. Self-accountability, yourself, because you spend most of your time by yourself. And that's why it's very important to ask yourself, who am I when nobody's watching, right? And again, that goes back to the self-image thing I'm speaking about. If you have a good self-image, right, your self-image is, to use auditing terms, is pervasive, right? It applies to all aspects of your life, and it applies from the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep, right? And changing that self-image is the crux of you actually becoming the person that you say you want to be, right? Becoming the person that you actually want to be, the person you say you are, and living it out, right? That's where self-image comes in. And now I'm going to speak about it from a relationship with God, from a Christian perspective, right? And I think this is where like it gets, I mean, obviously it's deep, right? It's it's our faith in God and like what happens after we die and everything, right? But who you are when nobody's watching, I feel like this is very like, it convicts, even for me. Like again, I make these videos, right? But these videos apply to myself. That's why I actually like make them, because I'm kind of basically speaking to myself, right? Like, who are you when nobody's watching, right? I don't even know where to start with this. I think I can start with this from like the faith versus works perspective, right? Because there's always this debate, which I don't understand, because like if you just read Romans and James, it'll be explained to you, like the faith versus works thing. But I guess people don't read their Bibles nowadays. Like I didn't know about it until literally 6 months ago. I couldn't explain to you about like the faith versus works thing. I didn't understand it, right? Do you get saved through faith or works? And if you've read Romans and James, it's both. But the thing that saves you is faith, right? You get saved from your faith through your faith in Jesus Christ, right? Because that's what gets you to heaven. But if you have sincere faith, your actions will show, right, as a fruit of that faith, right? I think it's James who says something along the lines of, if you have true and sincere faith, then your actions, your good deeds will show that. How can you say you have faith if your deeds don't show that? Right? And again, it's a switching of like the perspective, because I think it's very important to understand from the get-go that God looks at the heart. He looks at your heart. He looks at what's in there. And again, that's how he determines, right? Like you need to have faith, and he looks at your heart. Where's your heart placed, right? Once you have that faith, if you have true, sincere faith, you truly believe Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, you truly believe, that you will go to heaven after you die, right? You truly believe in all of that. You're going to obviously follow what he says, right? If you believe Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, right? Like God is, he's all-knowing, he's all-powerful, and you believe that he's your Lord and Savior, right? You're going to listen to what he says because he knows everything. Of course you are, right? And that's where like your works are shown through your faith, right? And I think that's where, again, God looks at the heart. And that's where I take this topic of who are you when nobody's watching, right? We always, obviously, as Christians, we speak a lot about like sinning, and we want to figure out how we can stop doing that. But then also it's very difficult because, from the moment Adam and Eve ate that apple, we were doomed. Like we were doomed to be sinners the rest of our lives. And that's why Jesus had to come and die for us, right? But then again, that's where the difficulty comes within the faith and the works, right? And again, it goes back to the same thing. God looks at your heart. Where is your heart placed? And if it's placed in God, right? I'm not saying that you'll never sin again, right? But you'll be way less likely to sin, like, because again, you don't want to hurt God, like, and we will still stumble. As I said, we were doomed. We were doomed from the moment Adam and Eve did what they did in the garden, right? We were doomed to be sinners. But the thing is, I don't know if this is like factual. I saw it somewhere. I think it was It's probably like a YouTube video title or whatever, but I kind of agree with the sentiment of it in line with what I know about like faith versus works, right? But it says something along the lines of, not that, there isn't like an unforgivable sin as far as I know, but like it's very like it's very unforgivable if you like deliberately sin. So like you plan on sinning, right? And I've had we've all had times where we do that, right? Where it's like, okay, I know I shouldn't, but I just feel like I'm later today, tomorrow I'm gonna do this. I know it's wrong, but I'm gonna do it anyways, right? That's where your heart isn't in the right place. And for me, I always look at myself when I'm doing that, I'm like, bro, my heart is just really not in it. It's not in the right place. And if God was to come down right now, I'm probably gonna hear what it says in Matthew. It's Matthew 7 verse 23. That's what scares the living daylights out of me, right? People will come to me and they'll say, Lord, Lord, but did we not fulfill prophecies in your name? And I will say, depart from me, I never knew you. I don't want to hear that. That is devastating. Bro, imagine at the pearly gates, or you're standing before God and you're like, hi God, I was a Christian my whole life. I even read the Bible. I tried all of this. Depart from me, I never knew you. Oh, that would shatter me. So I think that's where this links in very well, right? Who are you when nobody's watching? Who you are, similar to what I said about self-improvement, right? Who you are when nobody's watching is simply a reflection of your self-image, right? And again, in this case, it's a reflection of your heart, right? It is pervasive. It is consistent from the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep, because it's who you are, right? And if your heart is in the right place, who you are when nobody's watching cannot be different from who you are when other people are watching, right? And there's also this aspect of Christianity, and I guess it's just an aspect of humans in general, right? Of you go to church, you're this prim, proper, perfect like person, right? You don't swear, you don't do anything wrong, like your image is perfect, like you've never seen it doing anything bad. But then when nobody's watching, what are you doing, right? When you're at the clubs, when nobody from church is there, like what are you doing, right? That sort of thing. And again, it goes back to the same thing I'm speaking about. It's about your heart, your self-image, your identity, right? It's pervasive from start to finish, from the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep, right? And I think it's important to ask yourself that question all the time. Who are you when nobody's watching? But you guys let me know what you think of the topic in the comment section below. Make sure you subscribe to join the Self-Improvement Brotherhood. And until next time, I'll see you boys.